Hey, sports card fans, it's John, Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. This is a response video to the recent question that Graig over at MidLife Sports Cards has asked everyone. Now, in the description of this video, I will have a link to Graig's recent video from Monday where he goes over everyone's responses for the question that he asked last week, and then he ends with the question that he has for everyone for this week. Now, this week's question that he posed is, why has the hobby moved away from collecting non-Hall of Famers and non-rookie cards, and do we see that demand ever returning for the interest in non-Hall of Famers and non-rookie cards? Now, here's a case where, and this is a bit odd for Graig's questions because he asked some great questions, and it is a good question he's asking for this week, but I'm not sure I agree with his premise that there's been a shift away from collecting Hall of Famers and non-rookie cards. To me, the majority of collectors have always focused on Hall of Famers and their rookie cards. All the way back to the late 1970s, early 1980s, when I started collecting, I was always told, hey, the cards that you want to collect of a particular player, you want to collect their rookie card. That's the key card that you want for that player. And for the players that you collect, the more popular players obviously are the Hall of Famers. So for my entire collecting journey, for the most part, I've focused on collecting Hall of Famers, whether it's Wade Boggs as a player collector, or since I've been building my vintage collection, I'd say 99% of my cards are Hall of Famers or players that I think should be in the Hall of Fame. So those upper tier players. Now, with that said, I think there's always been a section of the hobby that do not collect Hall of Famers or their a player's rookie card. You have people that are player collectors. Maybe they have a specific connection to a particular player that's not a Hall of Famer, maybe a hometown connection, personal connection, whatever the case may be, and they want to collect cards of that player. And yeah, they may not be in the Hall of Fame, but that doesn't matter to them. You have team collectors who want to collect, as many different cards, or maybe all the cards that were produced, say, by Topps for their team every year. Well, of course, that's going to include a lot of non-Hall of Famers. You have TTMers who have been around in the hobby for probably decades, and they reach out to a ton of non-Hall of Famers to get those cards autographed by them. And in some cases, even though I was told, like I said early on in my collecting days, hey, the cards that you want to get, or that you want to make sure that you have the player's rookie card, because that's going to be that player's most popular card or whatever. And in some cases, players may not be able to afford, especially today, and if you're looking at vintage cards, maybe not everyone can afford that player's rookie card. Maybe their second year or third year or fourth year card. And then, of course, you have players like myself that are looking to do player runs. So not only would I be interested in that player's rookie card, but I also want to go, say, after their entire Topps run. So I am going to collect their non-Hall of Fame cards, as well as maybe going after their non-rookie cards, and also focus on trying to get their rookie card as well and have the entire run. So I don't see there ever being a shift in what people collect. For as long as I can remember, going to my local card shop or the occasional show that I was able to go to, you look at the display cases and it's all Hall of Fame cards. It'll have their rookie card if the seller happens to have their rookie card, but all the other cards for that particular player. Usually the only time that you see a table that has a bunch of non-Hall of Famers is maybe if they're selling T206s, or they're selling cards from a rare set that even the commons are worth a decent amount of money. But other than that, you're walking around and seeing display cases full of cards of Hall of Famers. Now, if you're talking about modern cards, obviously the modern players they're playing right now, and so they're not in the Hall of Fame, but people are still really interested in their rookie card, and they're collecting, in some cases, collecting those players that are playing today that they think someday will be in the Hall of Fame. Or again, maybe they're just collecting cards of players from their favorite team. So I think there's always been a mix. I don't see, well, with that mix, I think there's always been a majority that have focused on Hall of Famers and their rookie cards, because that's the key card for a player. And there's been less interest, I guess, in the hobby of non-Hall of Famers and non-rookie cards. But there's always been that interest as well. So again, I hope I'm not being confused here, because at first I was a little confused by Graig's question. But if I did get it right, he's implying that at one point in time, there was a huge interest in non-Hall of Famers and cards other than their rookie card, and now the hobby has switched over to only focusing on Hall of Famers and their rookie cards. So that's where I see the disconnect in his question. I from my standpoint, I haven't experienced or seen or felt that switch. I think it's always been there on both sides, but I think the majority interest in collectors has been the Hall of Famers and their rookie card. And the reason why I think the Hall of Famers get the most attention is, quite honestly, especially for vintage cards, okay? Now, because my knowledge of modern cards, I have to admit, is very limited. So what I'm talking about here in my thought process is going to be more on the vintage card side. And the reason why I think people gravitate toward the Hall of Famers is that, quite honestly, I and myself included, I may not know a whole lot of the history of baseball. Now, I know some history of baseball, but that history is all centered around the exploits and the records and the history of the great players, the Hall of Famers. If you look at any documentary, Ken Burns' Baseball, he's heavily focused on the Hall of Famers from those different decades, or players that would eventually become Hall of Famers from those different decades. You don't see a lot of concentration of information out there or history of players that were, say, really good, but maybe not to the level of a Hall of Famer. I think there's just been that general interest or attraction to those really great historical players within the game that happen to be Hall of Famers. So I think for those who are really into the history of the game, they may discover some lesser known players that may have had a great contribution to their team, and decide to collect them. And like I said, there's always been other facets within the hobby that have focused on non-Hall of Famers, but I don't think that area has ever been the majority of collectors. In other words, I don't think there's ever been a period where the hobby has been concentrated with those doing TTMs or team collectors. Now, I think there's always been a level of interest in, again, doing a complete player run of a player. So a lot of it goes beyond like the whole rookie card question. But yeah, those are my thoughts there on Greg's question. Again, it was very thought-provoking, Graig. I appreciate the question. I just don't know if I agree with your with the basis of the question, because I don't think there's ever been a switch. So I think that's all I have. Oh yeah, there's one other thing, not necessarily on the modern side, but when I do my top 10 PSA card sales on eBay for cards from the 1980s, it often features, now again, rookie cards, but of players who are not in the Hall of Fame. Maybe people think they should be in the Hall of Fame, but very often that top 10 list includes rookie cards of Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Mark McGwire. I know Pete Rose is very popular on the vintage side, and a lot of people think he should eventually be in the Hall of Fame, but he is technically not. And when I do those 1980 top 10 videos, I often get comments saying, man, I can't believe there's still an interest in those players, probably because they're, PED scandals or thoughts they did PEDs, and they haven't been elected to the Hall of Fame yet because of that, and who knows if they ever will. But there are collectors out there that are still interested in cards of those players, and especially their rookie cards. So again, from my standpoint, I'll sort of wrap this up again. Hopefully I'm not rambling too much, trying to put all my thoughts together here. But I don't think there's ever been a switch or a swinging of the pendulum, as Graig had put it in his video, away from concentrating on non-Hall of Famers and non-rookie cards to suddenly, currently, everyone is interested in only Hall of Famers and only rookie cards. I don't think that swing ever took place. Yes, there's been some maybe slight movements, in the hobby where maybe there have been more or less TTMers or more or less team collectors in the hobby, things like that. But as long as I can remember, Hall of Famers and their rookie cards have always reigned supreme and have always been the cards to collect. Of course, everyone has their specific collecting interest. So yes, Graig, another excellent question for everyone. I hope you appreciate my comment and look forward to your question for next week. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.